And so he structured his content and his intentions with the content of providing so much value to get people to build their business and to make at least 1 to 5 million a year. So that way that he can get something in return. So the only way he gets something in return is to help people grow their business.
Yep.
And so,
and he's building frameworks for those people as well that he's going to use in his businesses. It's awesome. It's really smart.
I mean, it's so next level, and not a lot of people understand that.
Welcome to another episode of Agency Growth Engine. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the CEO of SMC National. It's an 8-figure digital marketing company, and I get the opportunity to interview awesome people. But today is a special one because I get to interview someone that actually, I'll kind of share with the audience how I bumped into you. When I first got on TikTok, I think end of last year, beginning of this year, your videos were popping up in my feed all the time because I'm into marketing, I'm into agency, and I'm seeing your stuff pop up all the time, but there's a lot of other young people popping up in my feed, right? But there was something different about you and what you were building. And I want to talk about today. First of all, I want you to introduce yourself, Stone, and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. But what I'm most excited about today is you have figured something out that a lot of creators have not. And I've talked to a lot of them, is that you took your following, you have hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, and you've turned it into a real life business. And you've done all of this. You're only 19 years old. And so amazing job. I wish I had figured out as much as you have, even if I would have been happy with 25% of what you had at your age. So amazing job. Super excited to talk with you today.
Oh, likewise. I appreciate you having me. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally excited to talk with you. I'm sure this is going to be super valuable for not only the both of us, but for anyone watching and listening. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of our audience are people who are either in the agency world or just getting into the agency world, and it's hard at first, right? And I think there's a clear distinction to call out here that, you know, there's creators and then there's running a business, and they're two totally different things.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, especially now doing both, and I've experienced in both. They're two completely different things, and especially when it comes to the back end too. I mean, really the back end with creating content is just, editing, scripting, researching. But with a business, there's so much more tracking. There's so much more keeping up to date with people, with the business market or whatever you're in. Yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. And so you're going to do about $120,000 in revenue next year. Your goal is to do about 300. So that's going to double. That's huge. That's a real business. That's a legit business, and great opportunities to scale there. So tell me how you made your first dollar up until where you're at right now.
Okay. So I made my first dollar actually. So to back up, I really got my junior year of high school, around end of 2020. I got really big into e-commerce, print on demand, drop shipping, Amazon FBA, all those kind of side hustles, and did those for about 6 months going into 2021. But none of them really profited really that well. So I made some, hundreds of dollars, a couple $100 there, a couple $1,000 in there, but nothing, too major. And then shut that down, really focused on school. I had a lot of time in my hands, got really obsessed with finance, compound interest, cryptocurrencies, and really just investing your money at a young age to build your wealth. And I was like, wow, why don't other teenagers really know about this? Let alone, why aren't we getting taught this? And so I really got a minimum wage job. I said, screw the businesses and screw all that. Cause I was doing everything on those side hustles. I got a minimum wage job making $800 a month. And I started investing all of that into like 3 index funds, and just documented my journey of doing that and what I believed other teenagers should know and learn. And then that was my first account, Stone Fredrickson. Grew that to like 50,000 followers in less than 2 months. And then another problem arose. This was around July of 2021. Sorry, when I grew that account, and I was like, oh my God, TikTok is amazing. I started telling my friends and coworkers like, hey, get on TikTok, start filming yourself, start building an audience. And I kept getting the same excuses and reasons. And so as an entrepreneur, that's another problem. And I had some experience and some insight on that. So I was like, this is another good opportunity, but also I just wanted to help people take advantage of this opportunity. So I started creating content on a Coach Stone account, grew that to like 100,000 followers in less than 2 months. And then that's when I just turned 18, 2021 around August. and started my own agency, Stone Media, and started taking calls with some of my mentors during my shifts of my job, and about talking about consulting and just building the back end of the business. And then I started offering just like one-on-one 30-minute one-off calls for like $20 a piece in the beginning, just getting my reps in and really just learning different people, how to structure the calls, how to provide as much value as possible. And I started doing like 8 of them in a row, like back to back to back to back to back on my off days, which were only like 2 or 3 days out of the week, besides my minimum wage job. And then I kept doing that. I really started learning about funnels, online marketing funnels, and nurturing people and upselling people on memberships, packages, high ticket offers. And then I didn't quit my minimum wage job until I made my month's worth of pay in a day. And so when I made around $1,000 in one day, I quit that minimum wage job. That was around November of 2021. And then, fast forward to where we are here, we're making around, give or take, 20,000 a month.
That's awesome. And so how did you, what was some of the advice that your coaches gave you early on?
Well, first was just get as much like experience as possible in terms of just different clientele, because I had such a broad audience, and so many different people, so many different accounts. And so the main goal of that was really just to figure out what type of client performed the best, and who was going to be my ICA, who was going to be
your
my
avatar that you're going to serve.
Yeah. And then after a while, I realized that it was, and right now it's really experts, coaches, trainers, consultants, because they're providing educational value, and that's easier to tweak and optimize in order to get more results on TikTok and some of these other social media platforms. But I didn't know that prior to that. So it was really just getting reps in, not really worrying about the money, because that was going to really come. And it was just getting results, over delivering on my higher ticket clients to get results. So that way I can leverage those to get more clients. And then that was kind of just the main focus, and also just to build connections and gain knowledge.
That's amazing. And one of the things I want to call out here that you did that most entrepreneurs fail at is that first you just started and you didn't even charge that much. You just needed to get reps in because you didn't know what you don't know. And I think so many people get polarized in business. And I realize creators get like this too, because creators are really good at visualizing what they want to put out into the world. And they can already see how that beautiful painting or that awesome video or whatever's going to look in their head. But when you get into business, it's very hard to look and see how that business is going to look. You just know you have something. And it's all about just starting and getting those reps. No different than working out or playing a sport or picking up an instrument. Like, it's going to hurt and be awkward at first, but you just have to get those reps in. And I love that you called out $20 a call. It's like, you obviously weren't doing it for money, but you broke the threshold. And that's really, for a lot of entrepreneurs, that threshold, that $1 threshold. How am I going to get that first dollar? It just stops so many people. So kudos to you on figuring that out so early on.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you got your business up off the ground, and so now you're making a little bit of money. So not to where you're at now, but earlier on, you're starting to figure out, okay, I can make money at this. I'm going to quit my job. When did you really start hitting like hiccups in the business where it was like, okay, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, and as far as business world goes?
Yeah, I mean, definitely when I quit and put all my eggs in the basket, and like start of this year probably, because I realized as you grow, obviously more problems arise, but I obviously see those as just opportunities rather than like obstacles. And so I, more problems came about, more work, but also more opportunities to go into, this sector in terms of content creation, doing creative, doing it in person, editing, so many different. And so it was really challenging, not only to take advantage of some of those opportunities, but to stay focused on what I was good at. And I'm still struggling with this right now. But it's good to have coaches and mentors to keep you on that line and keep you focused. So that was that. And again,
so like shiny, would you define that as like shiny object syndrome, where it's just like there's
100%.
Yeah. And I think that's in the world, in the business world, how I've heard it explained is usually we die from indigestion, not starvation. So we are driven by fear that like, how am I going to get that opportunity, or how am I going? And right now you're facing, and I'm in a similar boat. It's like, I actually have too many opportunities. I don't have enough time in the day to execute on all those opportunities. And if you try to eat them all, you'll die from too many opportunities.
100%.
So how did you sort through that? Like, how have you narrowed that down and said, okay, here's where I'm going to focus?
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard, especially because a lot of big names that weren't on TikTok saw me as this young kid and had, all these connections that they knew I valued, and I heard the same pitch all the time. Oh, you help me with my content, I can get you connected with these people and da da da. I kept, and so it was really shifting through all that and to really understand if this person was really bought in or not. And one of the ways that you can really figure that out is if they're willing to pay.
I was just about to say,
a lot of people aren't willing.
Money tells all. If they're bought in,
money talks.
Yep.
Money talks. I mean, if they're saying, hey, what do you charge? And they're getting to that route instead of saying, oh yeah, you manage our account, I'll give you these connections, I'll help you with this, I'll help you with that. Is a little bit of that?
Is that a little bit from like the creator economy before on Instagram? Was a lot of like, hey, we'll send you our shoes and you wear our shoes, and then is that where it was kind of created? That
Yeah, I would say that, but it's also just like this notion of, oh, this kid's young, I'm older, I have more expertise and experience. He might value that, and I can kind of leverage that 80-20 or give him a free this product or free this without putting too many of my resources in this basket and risking or committing to it. But in reality, that's what most people need in order to stay accountable and to do their work, so that way I 100%. Can do mine.
That's what I always tell people. I've had people
thing.
Offer me free stuff, and occasionally I've taken it, right? Like, okay, I need something for you, need something for me. But what I have found is that you get busy. And when you get busy, you're going to prioritize the people who are paying you. So it's really better if we just have a financial arrangement. That tends to work better.
Well, yeah. And it's like they oftentimes like forget about me. Like I've done it for a few people, and they forget to create the content, and I'm sitting here with just reposting the content and it's not performing well, and they're thinking, oh well, he'll figure it out. He wants these connections and this experience and knowledge so bad to where he'll make it grow. Yeah. Somehow.
So what's your
and that's just not.
Yeah, it's just not the case. Yeah. So what's your agency right now? Like if I was a potential client, like what's your elevator pitch?
Yeah. So there's different services. So like the core program is really the program that's centered around experts, coaches, consultants to help them build an audience on TikTok that knows, likes, and trusts them, and then learn how to leverage that to not only get them to support you later down the line, but also purchase whatever you provide and make either
building a whole business from the ground up, basically. Like if I'm a 20-year-old kid and I'm on TikTok kind of messing around with it, but haven't really got it off the ground, you're going to come and give me the frameworks to create the content that I need to create. Mm-hmm. And then not just get the views, but then how do I funnel that back into an actual business that generates revenue?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really clarity, understanding, instead of just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, it's clarity and understanding what you want to throw at the wall and what you want to stick. And then it's going into like how to throw it and how to make it stick. That's the optimized stage. And then the refine stage is really how to make it stick more consistently. So that way you don't have these big fluctuations of views. And then the earn stage is really how to leverage that demand that you've built up within the first 3 stages to make either an additional income or a full-time living, which, over 200 of our clients have gained.
Cool. So which is amazing. So now let's talk through this a little bit, because I want to share some things that I've kind of seen and learned from, and I would love your perspective because you've actually been on the platforms longer, you've had more success with them, and you've figured out how to even help other people with it, which is amazing. Okay, so with TikTok, one of the things that I've noticed is like you can get a lot of views, you can get in front of a lot of people, you can even get a lot of followers, but it's really hard to build community there. So if I'm like wanting to build I'm just thinking logically as a business owner, if I want to build a business long term, I need to somehow get those people off of TikTok. Is that what you're thinking too, or how do you look at it?
I think it depends obviously on the person, how they are in front of the camera and what their goals and objectives are. But oftentimes what you're doing when people try to take their audience off of TikTok into maybe another platform, you're doing the same thing that what you could do on TikTok, and that is get them into your ecosystem, get them into their opt-in, whatever, yada yada yada. And so people think, oh, let's use TikTok as like this top of funnel, and then get them into YouTube, and then nurture them more, and then get into our ecosystem. But I would just eliminate that entire process and just
get them into it. That's what I mean is like get them
ecosystem.
into like an email list or like my Slack channel or a Discord or something like that. Something where I can touch them reliably over and over and over again without paying for it or having to invest a lot into it.
Yes, 100%. And so that's like the first thing that we do is understand really what the core problem or the main set of problems that your audience is really dealing with, and structuring some sort of free offer for them, and positioning it in a way to where it's like a no-brainer. I mean, like, they're constantly asking the questions. It's right there. It's free. Boom. And then so that way you own your audience, and you have the ability to communicate with them without having to rely on the social media platform or the algorithm, which, I mean, TikTok, you're right to an extent in terms of like TikTok is not really good for building a community because it doesn't really show every single piece of your content to your following. It depends on what that piece of content is and your following's interests, which, if you have a large audience, all those people's interests are different. So it's hard. It's not really like Instagram where it was chronological order and all your followers would see all your posts. So that's why it's super important to have that funnel, or even at least just that opt-in page set up before you go viral, because the last thing you want is to go viral and then miss out on all those leads. I mean, I just did a 3-minute video a few months ago, got like 2 million views, and I got over 4,000 emails. But if I didn't have that, I would have missed out on 4,000 emails. I mean, tons of
and that happens all the
clients.
time. I was looking at someone's account. There was a video. I don't remember what it was. It was some funny video, kid in high school. And I'm watching it, and it's like had millions of views, hundreds of thousands of likes. And I went back to his page, and he's just a kid at high school. He has like all of his other videos have like a couple hundred views. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking in my head like, oh, such a lost opportunity, because you had so much attention right there, but it went nowhere. And then there's nothing you can really do after that with it. Maybe repost it, right?
Yeah, I mean, but on the other end, like, so for some people, it's really tricky, and this is something that you really have to battle with for some people, because they get so money hungry. Is like they'll set up that whole entire infrastructure, and the content suffers because subconsciously they're trying to position the content in a way to get people to that opt-in.
So they're not providing value.
Can sometimes come off as salesy and not as valuable. So it's tricky, and you have to. It depends on the person. And, so that's another thing, is like understanding how to position this in a way to where your audience already understands kind of where to go to get that opt-in or that free offer, or how to like give a call to action, just not as salesy.
No, 100%. No, I totally agree with you. And I don't do really a lot of call to actions on my videos, just outside of like follow, just because I know people, I think people don't like it as much, but you need to know when and where to place them. And I want to kind of touch on that a little bit. But before we even do that, something that you said there is like, you need to figure out what problem you're actually solving. And really, I think a lot of times people get so lost in the weeds in business, they don't realize all business is you're just solving someone's problem, and they'd rather pay you to solve it for them than solve it themselves. And you have an arbitrage in that you understand it at a really high level and they don't. So you can just save them a ton of time and they exchange money for it. That's really all business is. So when these younger entrepreneurs are coming to you, are you helping them figure out what that problem is that they're going to solve? Or are they a little bit down the process further than that?
Some are already solving them. Others are, really trying to figure out what to solve. So those are obviously a lot trickier because they don't really know what they're passionate about. But I always go to like, what irritates you when people do it wrong or do it poorly? For me, it really irritated me where we didn't learn about finance. We didn't learn about money. And the educational system didn't teach us this, and other kids didn't know it. That was irritating to me. And so that revealed a passion of mine and a problem there. And so, for most people, it might just be swinging a golf club wrong, or whatever the case may be, cooking and not being able to cook, or not being able to do a certain thing. and then you go ahead and solve that problem. And then oftentimes, like, people try to come up with this like brand new solution, and oftentimes you don't need to like reinvent the wheel. You just can tweak the wheel a little bit. And so that's another thing, is like a lot of people will try to like come up with this new app or new invention when it could just be tweaking a different, a similar
Yeah.
business model in a unique standpoint. For me, it's literally just consulting, but leveraging my experience, my different accounts, and what I've gone through. And so I knew that was my unique value prop. And so that's why I'm going harder into the consulting rather than social media management, because there's a bunch of people that out there
Yeah.
repurposing content. There's not a lot of people out there that have built 2 TikTok accounts, helped over 200 people go full time, built a 6-figure TikTok specific agency. So it's leveraging that, and to the core of it, it's really self-awareness. And I think especially with the content too, is like self-awareness. If you know yourself to the deep core, and the strengths and the weaknesses that you have, and leveraging those, and even the polarizing takes that you have, the beliefs, the values that you have, that outlies a lot of content and content strategy that you can implement in your videos to gain more engagement. And not a lot of people really take advantage of that.
I love the way you put that. Now, one of the things you said there is self-awareness, which is one of our core values, is to be self-aware, because you can't really get anywhere if you're not self-aware. It's really hard. Like, no one else can help
Yeah.
you if you don't even know what you want help with, right? So here's one of the problems I've ran into in our company. So company culture is really important to us. We happen to work with a lot of young people. And so what I would always tell people is, hey, follow your passion. Like, what are you passionate about? Like, if that's not working with us, that's okay. You can go work somewhere else. I want you to, whatever you do it passionately, right? And so many times the young people that I work with, they're not self-aware and they have no idea what they're passionate about, right? They're like, well, I kind of want to, maybe travel, or I want to do something in like online. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so broad. So number one, how did you get so self-aware? Because you are way more self-aware than the normal 19-year-old. But then number two, how do you help other people through that? Like, how did you I like that trick that you gave where what bothers you. That's a good one. But how else do you help people become more self-aware, coach them in that direction?
Yeah. So you brought up a really good point. And actually, my econ teacher told us this at the last day of school, is like, find your passion and go follow it. Now, following your passion, I love, go do something that you love. But finding your passion is the biggest mistake that I think a lot of people do, because passion is not the input, it's the output. It's just like stress, except there's a different component. You see, when you work hard for something that you don't believe in, that's stress. When you work hard for something that you do believe in, that's passion. So I tell a lot of teenagers and young adults to list out your values, your beliefs, and your ideals. Like, what do you truly value? What do you truly believe in? And what do you what are your ideals in life? And do something revolved around that, and that falls in line with that. And so that way you're working for something that you do believe in, which is your passion. You see, a lot of people growing up, they love a particular sport, for an example, right? But they really value that sport. They value maybe the teamwork. They value getting better at that. They believe they are good at that. And their ideal is living that professional sport life, right? And so they believe that's the passion. But when a lot of those beliefs, ideals, and values go away, like it did for me, because I grew up in a very athletic house, a lot of those beliefs, ideals, and values were kind of going away. I got less passionate about the sport. And then again, that irritation of like, why am I not learning about money? Why am I not learning about how to become financially stable so that way I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, really irritated me. And I had this kind of trait of being good with numbers and math. And so again, I think that kind of was included and kind of made that passion come to fruition. So it's understanding your values, your beliefs, and ideals, I think, is the first thing. And then again, like, what irritates you? How are you as a person? I know that I'm very direct. I know that my voice is a lot deeper, or I have a good voice. And so I leveraged those points to within my content, and to not waste any time, and to get right to the value, and to pinpoint what I saw and what I was experiencing and what I was observing. And I get it all the time now. It's like, I love how you're straight to the point. I love how you're so direct. I love how you're just like kind of, it's like a show and tell instead of just a tell, or just instead of a show. So I think, again, like, I wouldn't have those labels if I wasn't self-aware. So that's like a huge
part of it,
huge thing that we do. And in the clarity stage of the core program too.
Awesome. Yeah. And then one of the things that I know that's a big problem, we talked about it right before we hit record, is on TikTok, there's a ton of young kids, and the vast majority of them have no experience, and they're on there trying to create a business. So they're like, buy my course to tell you how to blow up on TikTok. And then they have a course on how to blow up on TikTok by selling courses to people, right? So it's like the get rich, but it's like before TikTok, there was the get rich quick books, right? And so you would go buy their book, and it would tell you how to write a book on how to sell books to get rich. You know what I mean? So it's like, exactly. You're really not teaching anything, right? And it's like, there's a lot of those people, and people know it. Like, people talk about it, people joke, but people get scammed into it too. There's a lot of people who just don't get it and don't see it, and they get scammed into it. So how do you deal with that? Because when you're younger, that's harder if you're mixed in with that crowd. You obviously have done it. You've not only built the audience, but you've built the business behind it. So how do you kind of deal with that in the crowd, just because by default you're in that group because of the age?
I think the first thing is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And that's something I heard from Graham Stephan, because
he's super safe.
He went hard, and super safe. And that I think is another thing, is like finding 2 or 3 creators or influencers or people that are in your space that you want to be in, or that are talking about whatever you want to get into, and do some research and due diligence into those people. Like, it's surprising though. Like, a lot of people will consume so much content and so much, even like on TV too, but not know anything about the network, not know anything about the host, not know anything about the creator. And it's like, would you get information just from some random site? It's like, some people would, but like, again, if you want to get some credible information, and information that's right, do some research on that person, do some research on that network, on that like YouTube channel. I think that's huge too. And I realized, like, once I started doing research, like, a lot of these people didn't really know what they were doing, or had no experience. They just started this out of nowhere. One of
the things that really helped me is, I want to find people who have built it before, and then built the business on their experiences of building it before. If this is their first go round on doing it, then it's not as valuable. And like, even to your point that you made earlier, you're like, well, I built my following, and then I had to sell something, so I sold it for $20. Well, that's a great way for you to learn, and the other people to learn, right? Because they probably didn't want to pay $10,000 for a course at that point, right? So you're learning from them, they're learning from you, and it's a good. But then you were like, my time's worth more than $20 now, because now I know how to help them, and now you have this backing behind you of experience. So now it's you can literally help me get way further, way faster, and that the value just keeps going up. And I think that's a great way to kind of narrow down who's scamming out, and not even just scamming, but who's kind of faking it, just kind of learning it. Is what is their past? What have they done? What have you actually built? And that goes a long way. Now, another thing that I've noticed, and I don't think it's talked about a lot, is like, I've talked with people with over 1 million followers on multiple platforms, but they can't figure out how to monetize it. And you've done an excellent job of it's not like you've built to like 100 million followers or something like that. Like, you have a good following, but you figured out really quickly, okay, how do I make money off of this? What do you think the hang up is for a lot of creators out there that have the following, but don't have the revenue that follows that? Like, they're still working their jobs and things like that.
Yeah, well, it's different for every creator in different niches. But if you're solving problems and you're providing educational type of content, you're obviously solving problems. So you can solve those problems in greater detail with coaching, digital products, services, and things like that. But the hiccup is, like, a lot of people don't evaluate what those problems are. And so it's really evaluating your comment sections, your DMs, the people that are messaging you. and figuring out what are those most common questions and what is the common theme there. For me, I realized like a lot of people were commenting, hey, can you take a look over my account? Hey, what am I doing wrong? Hey, how can I grow on TikTok? Hey, do you provide consultations calls? And oftentimes when you build a decent amount of following or just a decent community size, they'll tell you exactly what they're dealing with and what they need. And then from there, it's really coming up with that most optimal service or product that best fits and best is the best solution for that problem, rather than providing all these different products and services. Because it's not about how many products and services you offer, but rather which are going to convert the most and produce the best results. So that way you can get more clients and keep those clients. And so that's the first hiccup. And then the second one is positioning those in the best way possible for that viewer to watch the video or continue to watch your videos and then go and get into your ecosystem. They're not dumb. They know exactly where they should go to get more value and to support you in a further level. And that is your link in bio. So they'll go there. But you need to get them to go there. And that is just by providing so much free value to where they almost feel obligated to give you something in return, let alone get more in return for themselves. And so once you have that, it's positioning them on your link site in the best way possible. Now, people's attention spans on TikTok are very, very short. And if you have 5 different clicks that they have to go through, they're already gone. Like it must be 1 or 2 clicks maximum and they're in your ecosystem, or else they're going to go back and watch more videos. So the traditional click funnels, sales pages that are 30 pages long. Here's a checkout page, here's billing information. That doesn't work on TikTok because they're going to get to that 3rd page and be like, this is a joke. I don't want to type in my email for the 4th time. I'm going to go and watch more videos. So that's why I like Stan so much, because Stan is really built around the idea of minimizing.
You just go right in and there's stuff to buy and there's stuff to interact with right away. That's one of the things on my thing is
exactly.
I have so much stuff going on in my link in bio, and I've had people tell me you need to shorten it, you need to do all that. I just need to do it. And I 100% agree with you. There's just too much going on in the world to have 30 links.
Yeah, and a lot of people will have just a normal link tree and all those links look the same. And so people get on that link tree and they get this link paralysis of like, where do I go? What do I click on? And they'll click on 2-3 things and they're like, no, this is just not where I want to be. Yeah. And so you have to position it in that way to where it fits their problem. And they're almost expecting that to be there, but they don't know exactly what to expect.
You have to figure out what the next step in their journey is. After I consume your content, whatever the content is, if you're helping me with financial advice, let's say, then there needs to be a financial course. Maybe it's free and they put in their email, or maybe it's $20 or whatever it may be. You got to understand what the next step is in that journey.
Yes.
And there's different ways to break that down. One of the best ways that I've kind of, the mental model that I've figured out is like, if you're at a restaurant, right? So what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to sit you down. They're going to give you menus, right? Oh, every time. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to give you drinks. Then they're going to do appetizers. Then they're going to do the main course. And what comes after the main course? Dessert, right? Dessert. It's never out of that order. We all know that, right? Like, and then comes the bill. So it's always in that order. And so restaurants all do it the same way because that's the order that everybody expects. Your customers have the same order. It's just, you have to figure it out. Like you said, you got to figure it out in the comment section. And once you figure it out, you'll notice the vast majority of people go through it the same way. So that's, I'm 100% with you. And I need to figure that out in my link in bio. Quick question. So can you give me a story of like your most successful client? Like you can give their name or not give their name, that doesn't matter, but just tell me the story of how, somebody that you've helped and it really helped them and had a big impact for them.
This person was actually like my 6th call. So he got, one of those $20 calls. And he was he was a life coach, and he's probably like 40 years old. And to be honest, at the time, I'm like, okay, this is probably just like another 40-year-old buying this call, trying to get some value, but probably not going to execute on any of this value. So I didn't really I was like really straightforward. I just like these 30-minute calls was just value packed. Cause I knew that they were recorded. I didn't stop talking. I was just go, talking about TikTok, the algorithm, what they should post, stop this, stop that, do this, do that. Stay consistent, stay patient, post at least 3 times a day, do this, do that. Like I was just rapid fire. And then I didn't hear from him or see his content for about I don't know, 6 or 7 months. And he just like blew up, went to like 20,000, 30,000 followers. He reaches back out to me. He's like, hey, like I got to work. Like all your advice worked. And I want to figure out how to like
monetize it,
earn more from this. Cause I just implemented my old sales funnel that I had from my other socials, and I'm getting still like around $10,000 a month, but I'm sure there's a better way to do this. And then I took a better look at it, and I'm like, oh my God, he has a massive opportunity here. He had a massive, or just not a massive community. I mean, 20, 30,000 followers, but it was just so trustworthy. I mean, engagement rate was through the roof. Many comments, many site views, but just weren't converting as much. So we set him up in terms of like the stand and kind of the back end and simplifying his sales funnel. And now he's obviously grown his following a lot more. I think he's around 115,000 followers, but I think his highest month was 60,000 in coaching a month. And he makes at least like 20, 30,000 a month from coaching. But and he doesn't scale. Yeah. Like he's just like, yeah, I'm fine with making $200,000-$300,000 a year. Like I could scale. And he has, a huge list of applications and people that want to get on calls. But that was probably the biggest success story. And
that's awesome. That's a good ROI for $20.
What's funny? Oh yeah. And what's funny is he, after about 2 to 3 months of doing what I told him, he didn't grow. And then he told his girlfriend, he's like, hey, like that kid didn't tell, that kid's advice didn't work, And the girlfriend goes, well, what did he say at the end of the call? Stay patient, stay consistent. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to do this for like another 2 months. And at like the last week of him doing it, he popped off and just really did well. So it was just that consistency aspect that a lot of people miss. And it's just continuing to try different things. And it could just be tweaking the title, the color of your title, the color of your text, what you say in the beginning of your video, or what you say after your hook, just little tweaks. And then once he did that, he found obviously massive amounts of success, built the back end. That's awesome. And then,
tell me the craziest like horror story of someone you tried to help and it was just an absolute dumpster fire. And just, I know you probably have a couple of these.
Well, a lot of them are just like from people that just don't do what I say, weren't posting consistently, weren't doing anything. And I would get on these calls and they're like, why am I not growing? And I was like, you've posted 5 times in the past month. And they're like, oh no, I'm doing my work. And I'm like, no, you're not. And then, so after those are like the worst horror stories, and they didn't grow. They didn't get any views. And I started pointing the finger back at me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm terrible. It's my advice. And then after talking to my mentors, they're like, no, you have to keep your clients accountable. Your clients are not doing their work. And listen, Stone, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't force them to drink. And so you got to kind of tweak it in a way to incentivize them to drink, though. And so that's when I structured my agreements to hold them financially accountable. And so the standards that I hold for my one-on-one packages back then were to post at least 1 to 3 times a day, to attend all my meetings, and to implement all my strategies and tips to your best of your ability. And a failure to do any of these at any point in time throughout the package duration was a cancellation of the package with no refund. And so when they hear that, they're like, oh my God, I have to post consistently. I have to do all these things. And then once I really enforced that, the success rate was just incredible.
Awesome. All right. Last question for you. Top 5 business books or podcasts.
Oof. Good. That's a good question. So Iced Coffee Hour for sure. Graham Stephan. The other one is How to Win Friends and Influence People is a great book. Think and Grow Rich is another great book. Rich Dad Poor Dad, another great book. That was one of the books that really got me obsessed with financial literacy. And then I'll say another great podcast is Alex Hormozi's. He just provides so much value. Yeah. And the way he structured his content is just so next level. I don't think a lot of people understand. I mean, he took out the subconscious, we were just talking about a couple minutes ago with that subconscious of trying to sell people. He eliminated that with the structure of his business of only working with businesses from 1 to 5 million a year. And so he structured his content and his intentions with the content of providing so much value to get people to build their business and to make at least 1 to 5 million a year. So that way that he can get something in return. So the only way he gets something in return is to help people grow their business.
Yep.
And so,
and he's building frameworks for those people as well that he's going to use in his businesses. It's awesome. It's really smart.
I mean, it's so next level, and not a lot of people understand that. They just think like, oh, it just,
no, he's really smart on the business side. Like the guy's a genius business wise. Yeah. 100%. That's awesome, man. How can people reach out to you if they want to learn more about your agency or get help from you? What's the best way to reach you?
Best way is definitely Coach Stone on TikTok. Look through my Stand store. There's a bunch of links on there. There's free resources, but there's also paid resources. There's an apply to work with me link, and you can just submit an application and we'll get back out to you. I provide a bunch of free resources as well, not only with my content, but with my podcast, Sticks and Stones, on Spotify and YouTube. And then I got a bunch of free guides, free trainings. And then I'm pretty much on every social media platform: YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, obviously TikTok, Stone Fredrickson on all of them. And Awesome, man. Well, you're an absolute beast. Again, I wish I had just a little small percentage of what you had at your age. You're going to be so far ahead of most people in the world, just your trajectories off the hook. And when someday I'm going to be getting a job from you, I'm sure, and working with you. So great job, man. I really appreciate it. And you always do a great job of very articulating your points very clearly for the audience. So it's easy to understand and easy to consume. Great job, man. Appreciate it, Gary. Thank you.